Today we're going to look at the properties of addition. The properties of addition have some pretty fancy names, but actually, in reality, what they're saying is actually not that hard to understand. The first property of addition that we're going to talk about is the commutative property of addition. An example of this would be to take 2 plus 8 equals 10. If we use the commutative property of addition, we switch the addends around to different places. So now you can see over here, the 8 is the first addend, and the 2 is the second. They have flip-flop places. So even though they are in different positions, and we now have 8 plus 2, the sum is still the same. It still equals 10, even though the addends have switched places. One of the ways that I help kids to remember the commutative property's name is because I try to tell them that it's like commuting. When you commute to work or commute to school, you go from home to work. You go from one place to another. So you move, and then you usually end up going back, right? So it flip-flops the other direction when you go home. You go from school or work to home. The next property of addition that we're going to talk about today is the associative property of addition. The associative property of addition looks and sounds a lot scarier than really what it is. All we're really doing is taking a group of addends like 6 plus 4 plus 5, and we're grouping together which addends we're going to deal with first. The parentheses show where we're going to start. So in this first example, what it's showing is 6 plus 4, and that's what I'm going to add up first. 6 plus 4 is 10. After I figure that out, then I'm going to add the 5 in. So 10 plus 5 is 15. If we look in the second example, you'll notice that the grouping is different. We're using the parentheses to group the 4 and the 5 together first. So that's where I'm going to start. 4 plus 5 is 9. Then I'm going to go and use the last addend and put it in and say 9 plus 6, or you could think of it as 6 plus 9 equals 15. As you can see, the parentheses are the ways that we grouped each of these. Even though they were in different spots, they still equal the same. One of the ways to remember the associative property is because it's kind of like a hug. When I put my arms out to hug someone, it kind of makes the shape of like a parenthesis. And I'm grouping that person together with myself. So that would be maybe a little way that you can help to remember that the associative property is kind of like grouping or hugging numbers together in a certain way. The last property of addition that we're going to talk about is the identity property of addition. The identity property of addition tells us that if you add a 0 to any number, the sum is the same as that other number. In the example here, we have a 3, and it's being added to a 0, and it equals 3. The identity of the 3 has not changed. One way to remember the identity property's name is to think about 0, our superhero. When superheroes have different personas that they use, like Superman being Clark Kent and Superman, the person itself really is still the same. They're just wearing a different outfit to try to hide who they really are so people don't know when they're being the superhero. But Superman is always Clark Kent. He doesn't really change who he is. Just like the 3 in our example isn't going to change who the 3 is, even though a 0 is being added to it.